Welcome to this week's episode of Reclaim Your Peace with Mother Earth. So glad to have you here today. It's episode 74, I believe. Wow. And today is, I would say, a special episode because today I am going to be sharing with you how I have reached 9 years of sobriety, which, first of all, I need to pat myself on the back and give myself so much love because, and I encourage you to do that as well when you speak out an accomplishment that you have made, because I never thought that that was going to be possible, quite frankly. I struggled for years with over drinking, and so just to be able to say that I have been sober for almost 9 years it's truly remarkable. And I don't want to forget how remarkable it is for me. It's important to celebrate. So I wanted to start with just giving you a little bit of my story, because I think when we talk about going through healing journeys, we can gloss over the story of how it got to that point. And I think that it's important to recognize that so many of us have similarities within our story. I mean, everybody's story is different. We're all unique individuals with unique experiences. But I think at the heart, there's so much common humanity around what brings us to turn to something like alcohol too much. So I wanted to share with you my story. And then I also, of course, I'm going to share with you really what has enabled me to reach the sobriety that I am now enjoying. And I am enjoying it. So I grew up in Wisconsin, and for anybody who knows about Wisconsin, you know that Wisconsin likes to drink, right? So I grew up in a drinking culture. I mean, I'm just going to put it right out there. Wisconsin is a very strong drinking culture. It is like a big deal. Every event, whether it's family or, a social function, lots of alcohol, a lot of times revolving around alcohol. So I'm just putting it out there. It's the case. And, my family was no different. There was a lot of drinking, especially at family gatherings throughout my life. I remember, you know, witnessing it, helping with it by like going to get beers out of the fridge, things like that. Just part of my growing up, right? So by the time I got to college, and I went to Madison, which is also a party school, awesome town, big party school. I didn't get super into the party culture as an undergraduate, but when I went into graduate school, I had some trauma occur that I really struggled to make sense of, and I turned to drinking as a form of buffering, which is so common. I mean, buffering is any activity that you do that helps you numb or just, put aside or dismiss whatever you're struggling with in the moment. And it could be anything that you're struggling with, but we all buffer. I still buffer in other ways. And I, as a graduate student, was living alone for the first time, and I started drinking alone for the first time. And I think that looking back, that's really when, that was where I hit the slippery side of the slope. From there, I just started depending on drinking more and more, and always functioning at a very high level, for my classes, for my work, but would definitely be drinking a lot in the evening by myself. Several years went by, that continued. I ended up meeting my now husband. We've been married for, oh my gosh, 17 years. So it's been a long time. But after I met him, we were in our early 30s. We partied a lot. We did a lot of that kind of stuff. So a lot of our lives revolved around those types of events. Also, at this time, however, my mom started to become we could tell that something was wrong. And she as it turned out, had a horrible disease called Lewy body dementia. It took a long time to get it diagnosed, and it was a very painful process. It took several years to have it diagnosed, and then when it was finally diagnosed, things were very advanced and there is no cure. So that was another round of trauma, of course, of helping care for my mom and watching her decline and all of the grief that's associated with that. So I was definitely turning to drinking more and more at that time to buffer those uncomfortable feelings, those, painful feelings of grief and loss. And I became pregnant, and I did stop drinking during that time. My mom died when I was about 7 months pregnant, or 8 months pregnant. So I didn't drink for a couple of years while my daughter was nursing, but after she stopped nursing, I really started drinking a lot again. We came back to Chicago to be close to our family, and I was in a job that was not a good fit for me, so I was really stressed. And I just started turning to drinking more and more. And I mean, just for context, I would, start with having a beer or two. This is after work. Move on to helping polish off a bottle of wine, maybe go on to a second bottle of wine. And then at the end of the night, when things were really, progressed with my drinking, I would drink bourbon, straight bourbon with a couple ice cubes probably. So I wasn't just taking a couple of glasses of wine and thinking I had a problem. I was drinking a lot on a regular basis. And I knew I had a problem, of course. I mean, my body didn't feel good. I hated myself. I beat myself up so hard and tried numerous times to moderate. I'm only going to drink on the weekends. I won't stop at one drink, all of these things. Really had a hard time with all of that and was never really able to make it happen. And there were a number of other things that happened too, but let's just say that there was a lot of trauma, and the buffering continued. But I finally, my husband and I, we finally recognized that we both had a problem, and we decided to quit cold turkey. We did it together, which was a great thing. And I think looking back on it now, the reason that I did not go back to drinking and still have not is that right about the same time that we stopped, I discovered thought work. I discovered thought management, and specifically I discovered something that is called the model, which is taught by Brooke Castillo. And the model tells us that our circumstances are facts in our lives, and our circumstances trigger our brains to generate thoughts. Our thoughts determine how we feel. The way that we feel determines the actions that we take, and then the actions that we take determine our results. And this is a brilliant model that applies to any situation in your life. It is something that I teach my clients and my students because it is powerful and has helped me in so many ways, not just around sobriety, but it's really a powerful way of coming to understand that you can think your thoughts, you can observe your thoughts, and you can let them be. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to analyze them. You don't have to beat yourself up about them. You can allow your thoughts to be, and you can choose different thoughts if those thoughts do not feel good to you. Now, this sounds so simple, right? But it is a matter of practicing it time after time, because truly it is, I think, it's empowering, and it's also I just think it's a brilliant way to overcome buffering. And like I said, we all buffer. It is something that so many of us struggle with. And the model, the ability to observe your own thinking and to not believe everything that you're thinking, to allow thoughts to be and to choose not to believe them and to choose to think other thoughts is, for me, it has been the secret to reducing dramatically the buffering that I do in my life. Because what it is training you to do is, and this isn't like gonna sound like a great sales pitch, I know, but doing thought work trains us to become more tolerant of being uncomfortable. It allows us to become tolerant of experiencing discomfort, which we don't talk about enough in this world. We don't like to experience discomfort. We like to sugarcoat. We like to jump to the next thing. We like to dismiss or push away things that are uncomfortable. But when it is your own thoughts that are the source of that discomfort, it is very hard to get away from them unless you're buffering, right? Unless you're doing something that suppresses those thoughts for you. And remember, those thoughts generate your feelings. So, really, the key is to increase your tolerance for experiencing uncomfortable thoughts. And at the beginning, this is a challenge. And so I found that in the beginning of this work, and to continue, continuing into the future, and I still do, of course, is to allow yourself to be in an environment, a setting that you feel safe having those thoughts, where you can allow those thoughts to come up, you can observe them, and you can choose not to believe them and not to ruminate about them. You do have the power to do this. Being outside in nature, connecting mindfully with nature, connecting with your 5 physical senses, like I always talk about when you are in nature, being in that place of presence and stillness is the most healing medicine when it comes to getting through uncomfortable thoughts, because you are surrounded by, you're in a setting that feels good to you and it feels nurturing and healing. And the more that you connect with that, the more your higher self will be awakened within you, reawakened within you. Mother Earth, nature, is phenomenal at this. And I know that that is one of the key reasons why I have been able to reach 9 years of being sober, because I know how to allow those thoughts, those uncomfortable thoughts, and I can choose not to believe them. I can choose to create new thoughts about my circumstances that serve me in much better ways than those automatic thoughts, those old default thoughts that all of our brains come up with, that are a lot of times not serving us and perhaps never did. Those self-limiting thoughts, those self-beliefs that are so constraining and harsh. I had myself convinced that I was too weak to handle my thinking. And that is why I kept turning to drinking, because I didn't think that I was strong enough to handle it, to handle all of the thoughts that were popping up in my head. And the more that I remember there was a cemetery that we lived close to, 2 cemeteries when we were living in Chicago, that I would walk through. And those were the most peaceful, calming places where I could experience stillness and really practice that power of presence. And I call it a power because it is. It is such a power to be able to come to the present moment. I encourage you to allow yourself to develop a practice of being present and allowing yourself to experience the discomfort of hearing thoughts that don't feel good to you. They may be very old thoughts, and keep telling yourself that you can choose whether or not to believe those thoughts. You can choose. It is your choice. You have sovereignty. You are in charge. You're the CEO of your own life. And you can choose to create new thoughts that feel better, that can replace those old thoughts. So this is a lifelong practice. And I think that it's not something that we're taught, right? I wish that we were. I wish every school taught kids this. It's something that I'm teaching my own children because I have experienced myself how empowering it is to have that level of self-awareness. And also, and I neglected to say this, but it's so important, to be able to extend yourself compassion in that moment. And even if you feel like you can't access that self-compassion, that you're just in such a place of, self-hatred and self-loathing, and you're blaming yourself and you're pointing out all of your faults, just start to go through the motions. Simply, honestly, go through the motions of just putting your hand to your heart, taking a breath, and just imagine that you are sending compassion to maybe somebody else, but direct it towards yourself. That is so key to this, because when you're experiencing those thoughts and going through the process of observing and generating new thoughts, having compassion be a leading feeling that you are experiencing in that moment will just amplify the healing that you are able to receive. And nature provides you that space. Nature provides you that space to experience presence in a peaceful atmosphere and in a place where you feel safe and supported and loved, because you are so loved. There's so much more that I could say about this. It has been quite a journey for me. I will also tell you straight out that I still buffer, I still struggle with stuff, but nowhere near the amount of pain and self-loathing and struggle and suffering that I experienced when I was over drinking. I know that you can do this as well. I must have tried so many times to quit, and even just to moderate my drinking. So the fact that I can tell you that this has worked for me and that it continues to work for me with respect to drinking, and that it has been about 9 years, it just blows my mind. So I hope that this helped. I would really welcome the opportunity to talk with you if this is something that you're struggling with, and if you would be interested in working with someone that has been there and that can support you through the process. Having somebody that you can work with, that you can partner with, that you can, share your experience with is so key. I was lucky in that my husband and I did this together. He did not use the same approach that I did with thought management, and he had his, own approaches that have also worked for him. We both agree that stopping drinking was one of the very best decisions that we have made in our entire lives, because it has just brought so many gifts to our lives in terms of health and happiness and the ability to be present with our children and not be distracted. And all of those things cannot be overstated. So I think that's it for today. Went a little long. I hope that you received something from this story. It is a personal story. Maybe you can see a bit of your own story in mine. So, once again, I would love to talk with you, to support you if this is something that has resonated for you. And you can do that by reaching out to me and requesting a free breakthrough session. I'll provide the link down below. You can also do it on my website at ournaturalwisdom.com/breakthrough. And you can schedule a free 1 hour session at your convenience. Thank you so much for joining me today and for witnessing my story. I truly hope that it has provided some sparks of hope and guidance in your journey as well. Thank you. I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.